You see, a mother is someone that nurtures. A mother wears many hats. And I always say, even in my home, that when a mother is at home, the atmosphere is different. The atmosphere is warm. The atmosphere is conducive because a mother brings warmth into the home. What happens when one leaves and you are left to bring the children up alone? Our guest today is a father that is bringing up his children alone. The wife died. She went to be with the Lord. And what are some of the things that our guest has learned? And what are some of the things that our guest is passing on to the children? We want to follow up with his story, and we are going to learn. And I want to ask you, if you've got a friend, please call them. Call your family members. Let them gather together today and listen to our guest speak. Because after this, you are going to be challenged and you are going to bring up your children in a different way. Because the Lord has helped our guest. And without much ado, I want to welcome to the show our guest. His name is Cornelius Kanyiri, a man that has been helped by God. Karibu sana, our guest Cornelius.
Asante.
How have you been?
I'm doing well.
How are the children doing?
Children are fantastic. I'm blessing the Lord for the far that we've come.
Okay.
And I'm feeling excited to be here.
Wonderful.
Thank you for inviting me.
Karibu sana.
Asante sana.
They're at home right now, I know.
Yes.
Schools are closed. So you have them most of the time.
Most of the time.
So you have them to yourself. And you are, I know you're happy.
Yes.
Because you're so passionate about your children.
Absolutely.
That's one of the things that I picked from you when we talked. For how long were you married before your wife went to be with the Lord?
I got married in 2004 to a very beautiful lady, both in spirit and physically. Actually, she was a model.
Oh, she was a model.
At first I thought, ntawezana. But through the grace of God, nikaweza ku establish a home. We met and we discussed about life. And I liked her.
Okay.
And we were married for 6 years before she passed on.
Oh.
Yeah, it's a long story how we met and how we move on in life. But it's the desire of my heart was that I'm going to settle down and get married and, of course, live a long life in marriage.
Yes.
But I didn't know it was going to be short.
Oh.
That's the part where a lot of people ask me, "Uko sawa kweli?" And I'm like, yeah, okay, nobody knows. And I think for the 6 years, I was happy, really happy.
Yeah.
And I was satisfied with that marriage. And I learned a lot of things, which even after she passed on, I was able to fit in and understand God's work in life.
You know, you've talked about 6 years.
Yes.
And it's not a short time.
It's not a short time.
It's not a long time. It's the things you said. For the 6 years, you were so happy.
Yes.
You lived a fulfilled life.
Yes.
And that is that's what counts most.
Yes.
That for the 6 years that you were together with her, the beautiful lady.
Yes.
What was her name?
Lillian.
Lillian.
Yes.
Wonderful.
Yes.
So what happened to Lillian? What took her home to be with the Lord?
You know, when you have a new marriage, especially when you start off in marriage, so to speak, you really don't see bad things happening. So after the honeymoon, you're excited about everything, so you're looking forward to life.
Yes.
And there are things that women take for granted. One is health.
Okay.
So because everything is okay, we don't check routinely to go check is there any issue in your body, like do you have some maybe conditions? And I remember when we were marrying, my wife never liked skuma wiki.
Oh.
So it's something that the doctor came to tell me, you should have noted some of these things.
Oh.
She used to avoid eating some certain vegetables.
Okay.
Because of what they made her feel.
After eating.
But I was not sensitive to that.
Okay.
And we didn't have a family, it was just me and her. And I started noticing that she doesn't do some specific things in the kitchen. She would avoid to cook something. And then when she, I think about like when we had the second child, when I was taking the notice to the clinic for the nurse to sign, she asked me a question: does your wife get children with this condition? That's very abnormal. She must be, what do you do? And
did you know the condition?
I didn't know the condition. So I was like, what are you talking about? Then she said, oh, you know, they brushed it off.
Yeah.
They didn't want to scare me, probably.
Okay.
Or I was not at a position of understanding. I'm so happy I've got a new baby,
yes.
the second one.
Yeah, second born.
And I'm excited. We've been married for 4 years now.
By the way, how many children do you have?
The first kid was okay, but first year.
Okay.
Then 2 years later, we had another kid. And now, the nurse has asked me this question out of the blue.
Yes.
So I'm like, what condition? And I think I should have followed through just to ask. She started having issues with her, the stomach. She would say, it's like I have ulcers.
Okay.
So we said, why don't you go check to the clinic and do some checkup? And she would go buy some Actol, just over-the-counter medication, and go home. Probably not find it, it's not a big issue.
Yeah.
Then about the 6th year in our marriage, I think it was in January, she didn't take breakfasts, which was abnormal. My wife loved breakfast.
Okay.
So we were working together. She used to be my secretary.
Okay.
In the business that we were running together. And so she decided not to come to work. And so when I left her on the dining table, the breakfast. I came lunchtime to check on her. Still the breakfast was there. She hadn't taken it.
Okay.
Asked her, is there a problem? I can be emergency in appetite.
Oh.
Don't want to eat.
Okay.
Are you hungry? No. I think there's something wrong. So I decided to take her to the clinic. And this is the time we discovered that there was something wrong with her kidneys.
Okay.
After we did the test. And then we were advised to go check a consultant. And then when we went to the consultant, we realized she didn't just have a kidney problem.
Oh,
she also had, she was also 3 months pregnant.
Oh.
And there was a complication with the pregnancy. Her uterus was having some tumor.
Okay.
So at this point is now you want to talk to anyone. So I started calling my friends. I don't know anything about this complication. So we went, I think, about 4 doctors.
Okay.
The 4th doctor was a specialist, the gynecologist. He said, I think you need to terminate this pregnancy.
Okay.
Now, this is 2010. I want to give you some flashback, kidogo.
Okay.
2010, we are talking about the Constitution, and there's a lot of campaign out there about the abortion issue.
Yes. Oh.
My wife has this conviction that God is going to sort this problem. So, number one, she's on the yes campaign, and I'm on the no campaign.
Okay.
So we are like,
so
I'm keeping the baby. So
yes.
You want to have abortion? I'm the one carrying it.
Yes.
I'm not doing it.
Okay.
And now there's a tussle here between me as the father,
yes,
and her as the mother and the owner, and she's the one now carrying the pregnancy. And we had made a pact between me and her that we should never argue over things that you have the prerogative to or to choose.
Yes.
So I asked her, what do you think? She said, have you backslidden? You've forgotten about God. Don't you know that God can fix this problem? And I was like, okay. So we made an agreement. She was not going to have the abortion.
She'll keep the baby.
She'll keep the baby.
So, and to take you back just a little bit for some the people that are watching us.
Yes.
So she had cancer of the uterus.
No, the condition that we discovered was that she had already lost a kidney, so she didn't have a kidney. Okay. So while the doctors were asking me how she gets the babies, she didn't have a kidney. So probably it was a problem that she got married with the problem.
Okay.
Because a kidney is not something that just goes off in a short period of time.
Okay.
And then the kidney, probably by that time when we were discovering, it had also affected the uterus.
Oh, I see.
So that's why the doctors were asking how she was able to get the babies with this condition. And I was actually being told, you're very lucky that you'll be left with 2 kids. So I was like, what's going on? So, you know, at that point.
And they were just roll like that?
Yeah, they know something bad is about to happen.
Okay.
And I think at that point is when now we started taking this condition seriously.
Okay.
So I went to about 4 or 5 doctors trying to confirm whether it was true that she had cancer.
Okay.
The last doctor that we saw in Gatehouse confirmed for us and asked us to do a termination of the pregnancy and also remove the tumor.
Okay.
The process was to remove the kidney.
Okay.
So we were able to get help from one of my friends. He drove us to the hospital. She was booked for the surgery and the process was completed.
Okay.
But she refused to do the abortion.
So she kept the baby.
So she kept the baby, the kidney was removed and the tumor was done. But now we had to go back home and make a decision whether we're going to have the baby
or not. So this is the time that your wife discovered also that she has to remove the baby if she was going to survive.
She was not removing the baby. According to her decision.
She was going to keep the baby.
She was going to keep the baby and the miracle was going to happen.
God is going to.
God was going to show up.
But eventually, your wife passed on.
It didn't happen the way we were expecting. And probably our story didn't end there in terms of what we were trying to think.
Okay.
As a young family, my concept about her dying was crazy. I didn't want her to die.
Yeah.
So I wanted her to remove the baby. So there was already conflict. We were not agreeing. And on the other side, I was also confused. Should I believe that the miracle is going to happen and stand with her? And that's where now.
And I know that can be a great challenge, even for so many families, whereby, God, do I go with the convictions of my wife? Do I go with what I feel as a father, as the leader of the home? But God is sovereign in all these things. How did, after your wife passed on now, briefly, how did it affect you?
Well, after she passed on, I think one of the challenges that I had was, how do I move on?
Yes, having the children, 2 girls behind.
Besides the family, my relationship with her was very solid. So I lost a partner. I lost a friend. I lost my secretary in the office. She was my accountant. So you can imagine the kind of level that we've gone. And then now I have 2 girls. One is 3, the other one is 5. They have no clue where their mother is.
Their mother.
I remember my daughter, Kanyiri, Daddy, we went with Mom to the hospital. What happened? So they thought Mom is still coming back. So how do you explain to a 3-year-old who has never seen a dead cat or a dead dog about death? How do you explain that?
It's a bit.
So that was the first challenge that I had. Okay. It brought me to a point where I really needed to understand my role as a father. I needed to explain to my daughters what it means to die. And then I needed to be there for them because I realized at this point, a lot of people are giving me options. Get married, take your kids to your mother,
and you know,
give your
people
sister,
are very good in giving advice to other people. Do this, but eventually it is you.
At this point, I realized if I was to give my kids away, 2 people would die in their life. One, physically their mother would be dead. And me, because of being absent, eventually over the long term, I would also be dead to them.
So you decided to keep your
That was the challenge that I was having that time.
Okay.
And the decision to stay began at that point.
Amen.
Yeah.
Wow. What happens when you lose a friend? What happens when you lose not only a friend, but a wife who is a friend and who helps you at your workplace, who is your secretary, who is your accountant? What happens to you? We will take a short break. And when we come back, we will hear more from our guest, who is Cornelius Kanyiri. He will tell us what he has learned over the years that has brought him to where he is right now. And of course, we want to know how the children are doing. What kind of girls have they turned out to be? You don't want to miss this. Let's get to know more when we come back.